Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the HamCorp training manual. In this episode, we will start producing polyvinyl chloride and upgrade our benzene setup. We will also complete a few assorted progression-related tasks. The PTFE automation has been postponed to a later date. So I just got done setting up the polyvinyl chloride. It's quite congested here because I'm building off of the ethylene that is used in polyethylene, because that's the first step to making polyvinyl chloride. So what I have here is I have this tank pumping into this tank. I just did that so I could mentally kind of separate the two lines. So the uncolored set of machines is what's used for polyvinyl chloride, and the red is for polyethylene. But anyway, so we get ethylene into this. There's a machine hiding here, a basic chemical reactor. The ethylene is put into cells, and then a conveyor sends it into this chemical reactor that's right adjacent to it, and it's basically hidden. It's covered by a billion other blocks except from below. Well, I guess even from below it has the cable. But anyway, so this ethylene, I'm specifically using the program circuit 11. I'm doing that because I want the vinyl chloride to be in a cell and the hydrochloric acid to be a liquid. So this is the recipe that I'm using on the bottom. The chlorine I source from an electrolyzer on this side. This is supplied by a active supplier module. This gives it salt. We're currently out of salt. But yeah, so the salt makes chlorine. The chlorine gets sent to the hidden chemical reactor. And then the sodium gets pulled out with this item conduit and is sent to this storage drawer. This is just one that already exists from sodium persulfate. But you could also just put it in its own drawer. Doesn't matter. You might notice that I have some oak planks here on some faces of these machines. This is so that the different logistics pipes don't connect to the block. For example, this fluid supplier is supplying oxygen. We don't want oxygen to go into this electrolyzer, so we can put a plank here. This is just a oak plank from GregTech, usable as a cover. So you just right click on the face you want to prevent connections on. So anyway, the ethylene is mixed with the chlorine, which we're out of, but I have some cells here for demonstration. This makes hydrochloric acid as a liquid and vinyl chloride as a cell. The hydrochloric acid is pumped up to this ultra low voltage fluid tank. This is basically a trash can. It's an overflow voiding thing. I mean, there's a little bit of hydrochloric acid here, but I have a overflow valve to void any excess. I guess this could also just be a trash can. That doesn't matter. The vinyl chloride cell gets sent to this chemical reactor. This chemical reactor mixes vinyl chloride with oxygen coming from this fluid supplier. That makes an empty cell, and the empty cell is sent back to the ethylene to fill again and get sent in a loop. So the cell basically starts here, goes into this hidden chemical reactor, goes into this chemical reactor, and is sent back into the fluid tank. So it goes in a loop. As for the molten polyvinyl chloride, that goes up, gets stored in this tank. I have these cells here for a quest. And now I just need to turn them into sheets to finish the polyvinyl chloride. I thought I'd just show you a quick progress update on all the circuit parts that I've been collecting. Just look at these chests. They're so full of stuff. Something I wanted to show was actually blue steel, because blue steel bolts, you can make in an extruder. It takes almost a minute for each craft, but it's actually faster to do a fluid solidifier. Even though you need to do 8 of these, it's still faster. So yeah, so it's actually a better idea when you have auto crafting set up. It's a better idea to teach your system to fluid extract and solidify blue alloy instead of sending it to an extruder. Something else I made was the maintenance cover, or needs maintenance cover, and the howler alarm. This is for my clean room. The maintenance cover emits a redstone signal if a multi-block needs maintenance, if you put it on the controller. So I'm going to put it at the bottom here. You can still access the controller by right-clicking, and you can access the maintenance cover by shift right-clicking. And then if I put the howler alarm connected to it, now when there's maintenance issues, this thing is going to scream at me. Here, let me show you. Let me set this to inverted. Brace yourself. Nice. Another thing I need for the circuit components is platinum. we're finally at the stage where we need platinum. But we're not going to do the full plat line, obviously, because it's too early. So I'm just going to use the basic introductory plat line, which is just directly smelting the metallic powder dust into nuggets. And you can get this metallic powder dust by chemical bath plus nickel ore. And you might see that I also have a chemical reactor, a large chemical reactor favorited. I have all the materials for that in here, including materials for a HV energy hatch, but we will come back to that after I have everything else done. Basically, it's for the circuit boards, but I'll explain that later. And here are HamCorp's first platinum nuggets. Now we can make some nice diodes, some SMD diodes. In fact, we've switched to SMD components for everything but the inductors. We have SMD resistors, transistors, diodes, and capacitors. The SMD inductors, however, need neodymium, which I don't think we have a source of. So that's going to have to wait. It's time to put together this large chemical reactor that I mentioned before. So first let's make this HV energy hatch. And with the rest of these items, let's make the remaining things that we need for the chemical reactor multi-block. So this needs a coil. Luckily, we can repurpose our old copper-nickel coils for this. The coil tier doesn't matter. I did have to craft some polytetrafluoroethylene, and I did that just by hand because there's a large chemical reactor recipe. Let me show you. So this recipe for tetrafluoroethylene is not possible in a single block chemical reactor because there are three fluid inputs. In a regular chemical reactor, we would do this, the hydrofluoric acid plus chloroform. Chloroform, however, has no use except to turn into tetrafluoroethylene. So I think it's better to just make a large chemical reactor and then do this recipe instead. So this way, this turns it into a two-step process to make polytetrafluoroethylene. You just have to polymerize the tetrafluoroethylene with oxygen, and that we can do in a regular chem reactor. But yeah, that's the only reason I haven't automated it yet. However, this chemical reactor that I'm making, I'm first going to use to make a bunch of plastic circuit boards because the chemical reactor gets perfect overclocking, which means when you provide it with a higher tier energy hatch, instead of getting twice the speed for 4 times the energy cost, you get 4 times the speed for 4 times the energy cost. So it's the same efficiency. You're not losing any power by doing this. Once I have these circuit boards, I'm just going to move this chemical reactor to the chemicals plant and then dedicate it to tetrafluoroethylene. So this one I'm just going to throw down in the middle of this room because it's a temporary. Alright, we got a large chemical reactor. I need to power it, but again, this is temporary. So I'm going to do some bad practice and just borrow this. Well, I'm going to craft up these plastic circuit boards and the rest of these circuits, I guess. It's not really anything particularly interesting. You've seen circuit crafting before, so I will be back when all these chests of materials are processed. And there we go. Took a while, but here are, oh, it doesn't look like a lot. I've compressed down 2 diamond chests worth of ingredients to make 3.5 stacks of circuits. Amazing. So, what now? What is the main goal of HamCorp? Our main objective is to make the Tier 1 rocket. Now, the Tier 1 rocket is quite an expensive thing to make, and we need it to go to the moon. For the different parts of the Tier 1 rocket, I guess that can wait, actually. There's some other things we need to do for the Tier 1 rocket first. So we need to make a NASA workbench. This is quite expensive. It needs an IV circuit, which is within reach. But it needs to be made, I think, in an HV circuit assembler. Yeah, so we need to make that first as well. On top of that, we also need a way to fuel the rocket. And the way we were going to do that is by using cetane boosted diesel. Now this we can get from biodiesel or from regular diesel, which is also called fuel. Regular diesel, I think, is the path we're going to take, and that comes from oil. I've been putting off oil because I want to do it correctly with a distillation tower. And a distillation tower is very much within reach now, especially now that I've made a bunch of EV circuits. Each distillation tower needs 4 EV circuits. And while I would love to go straight to oil processing, I think we need to upgrade our benzene setup first, because we're just currently not making benzene fast enough to keep up with the rate that we've been using it. I spend a long time just waiting for the benzene buffer to fill before I start, for example, a blast furnace craft, just because it gobbles up benzene so fast. I also do want to retire these coke ovens because they're just really slow. Like, this only gives us, what was it, 2 amps of MV, I think, in conjunction with the steam stuff. So that's not a lot at all, considering that we're in HV now. So we're going to take a look at the bio for the Masters Quest line. I haven't claimed these rewards on the right because I want to remind myself to do this at some point. This is for biodiesel. I mean, I guess I don't need to do it, but I do want to green out all of the quests at some point. So this is just to remind myself to do this. So I'm going to leave these unclaimed for a while. But anyway, this left branch is improved benzene. So this is the benzene tree up to MV. And then starting at trees growing faster and sapling power, we start looking at HV. Because the next step after dealing with the trees growing faster quest is to make a distillation tower. And then everything up to this point is part of the HV quest line, so I'm going to try and do whatever is relevant for benzene. The tree growth simulator is very much out of reach. And it's kind of misleading that that's the icon of the quest. But anyway, so I think I'm going to spam more LV crop managers. I don't really want to make an HV crop manager. That's going to need me to rebuild the entire farm because I built that farm with the LV crop manager in mind. I guess it's not that big of a deal, it's just kind of annoying. But I guess for the sake of the quest, I can just go get a stack of spruce wood just for the quest. And to actually deal with getting more wood, I'm just going to expand the farm. Maybe 2 more LV crop managers? I don't know. Just got done expanding the farm. Here's 2 more 111 oak bonsai farms. I changed how it's wired so they don't each get a steam turbine. It's kind of wasteful. But I'm not going to show you what I did because, quite frankly, I'm ashamed of how spaghetti it is. Moving on. It's time to make the distillation tower. The distillation tower is a multi-block with a variable height. And the height of the distillation tower determines what kind of recipes you can do. So we are interested in the recipe that converts wood tar into benzene and other byproducts. There are 4 different recipes. The difference between them is the type of dimethyl benzene you get. This one gives you 1,2, this one gives you 1,4, this one gives you 1,3, and this one gives you a little bit of all 3 of those. I think 1,3 dimethyl benzene is pretty much useless. It's only good for electrolyzing into hydrogen and carbon. But the 1,2 and 1,4 have different uses. So the 1,4 is used in making terephthalic acid, but I don't know when this is used because I don't think I've ever gotten to a point where I've needed this. Okay, this is make Kevlar in like UV, so I kind of don't need that right now. The 1,2 dimethyl benzene is used for making phthalic acid, and phthalic acid is useful in EV for multiplying, or not multiplying, but for converting beacombs into purified ore. And I think it has some other uses as well. Oh yeah, it's used in making polybenzamidazole. So that one is actually useful, but not until EV or maybe even IV. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the recipe that only makes 1,2. That means I need 5 output hatches, which means I need a distillation tower that has a height of 6, because the bottom layer doesn't have output hatches. But yeah, okay, I'm going to start crafting these things up. I don't think there's anything new. I didn't show all the steps of the HV energy hatch, but there was nothing really interesting. It was just input goes into magical black box and then output comes out. So I spent some time crafting. I actually gathered up all the things that I need to make the HV circuit assembler. I'm just going to do that. Getting kind of cramped in here, huh? I've also started gathering parts for the NASA workbench, which I think I mentioned before. I don't have the nether star plates, which is the last thing I need. Also the IV circuits, but that's why I made the HV circuit assembler. So you know what, let's put together this IV circuit really quick. 80 seconds each. Okay, well, I'll be back when this is done. I also have the materials needed to make the distillation tower. And all of the other items as well. This one is dedicated to benzene, so we're gonna set that up in the power building. First I wanna just grab these IV circuits. Here's the first IV circuit. There's another one crafting right now. I also started making this basement a little nicer under the blast furnace hall. And I think it might even make sense to connect it to the main machine floor, because it's just a couple blocks away. And it goes under this road. Oh, shit. But yeah, but it's right here, so I think it kind of makes sense to do that. But I'll do that on my own time. And I think it's time we take down these coke ovens. Look at that. So clean. Everything's gone. So I'm currently asking the HamCorp Council what to do about the steam situation. Do we want to keep these boilers? Do we want to get rid of them? Also, in the benzene production process, we're going to make excess charcoal and excess creosote oil to continue to power these. So it's okay that all of these coke ovens are gone. But I'm kind of a dumbass because I just realized I need another pyrolyze oven to feed the distillation tower. So I haven't considered step 1, but I got step 2 ready. So I guess this distillation tower is going to have to wait just a little bit longer while I get another pyrolyze oven ready. So yeah, so I'll be back when I have that. See you in who knows how long. Okay, I got myself a second pyro. This has been set up. It has Canthal coils. It's powered by an HV energy hatch with a turbo gas turbine, currently empty. And here is an output hatch and a steel fluid pipe, which is going to lead to the input hatch of the distillation tower. I'll build that in a second. I also made a super chest. This stores the charcoal. And on the top, we have an input bus with program circuit 9. And this will be feeding oak logs in. I think it's time to stop using the train to transport the logs because it's just a little bit too unreliable. So I'm going to switch to logistics pipes. So I've hooked this up. And I've also hooked up the farm to the logistics pipes network. So the HamCorp Metro is no longer going to be a logistics line. It's going to be for tours of the HamCorp grounds, I guess. But anyway, let's put together this distillation tower now. So to get our benzene, we do need a program circuit. I've been using the input buses to set the program circuit, but we don't have an input bus for this distillation tower, and there's no program circuit slot on input hatches. So I need to go get a physical circuit, set it to 1, and then put it inside of this slot. Alright. There's also wood that's been sent to the pyrolyze oven, and we're now making wood tar. Wood tar is sent to the distillation tower, which distills it very quickly. And we get more benzene. I've also learned that the advanced coke oven setup we have upstairs to make benzene is not really that good. So I'm going to retire that as well. I'm going to retire the setup upstairs. I'm also going to remove these boilers. I know we have some steam infrastructure already, so we're going to have to either switch that to benzene or I can reassemble one of these boilers, the one that uses charcoal. I think I'll do that. But the liquid fuel boiler can just go. Also, now that we're in HV, we've unlocked the reservoir. And the reservoir is nice because it's basically infinite water. You just need to supply it with 2 buckets to begin with. And then this just generates water. And if you right click with a wrench, it turns it into an output. And it's now filling the steam boiler. So this will always have water for free. We don't need to supply this with fuel or anything like that. Also, yeah, I did move it down a level. And here it is. This is almost the final setup. The pyrolyze oven, I'm going to actually set to void. Actually, I'm going to set it to void both fluids and items because we do need to produce both. We need to produce charcoal to power this thing, and we need to produce wood tar to fuel this thing. As for this distillation tower, we could put it on void fluids. Yeah, I'm gonna put this on void fluids. Void excess fluids. So this will keep running at all times no matter what. And here's the final setup for benzene. I have some more super tanks for the byproducts. These are going to be useful in the near future, especially the toluene, because that's used in making TNT, which we need to make the rocket, interestingly. So while we have this running, we can start doing things like preparing for oil, which is what we're going to do in the next episode. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. In the next episode, we will build the HamCorp oil refinery and produce diesel. If the budget allows, we will upgrade the diesel into cetane-boosted diesel, which can be used as rocket fuel. If you made it this far in the video, please comment, "I exist to increase shareholder value." See you next time.